how does localization actually change the AI visibility conversation for global brands?
Yeah, thanks, Vivian. I'm really happy that we are discussing this because, as I said in the beginning of this webinar, localization and the SEO or AI visibility link between those are super underrated. And you see like very few people talking about this because I think how localization teams are also positioned
Mhm.
since back in the year, like we do only translations. So they come us as a service. But no, that has to change because localization teams are also leveraging the growth for local markets and even for global markets. So I think we need to shift our mind here and how we position the localization teams. So, but when we're back to AI visibility and localization link, because I can talk about that position on localization topic, maybe for hours, because that's a big struggle we are seeing in the industry. But anyway, so I think the key word here for AI visibility and localization and how it impacts each other is the semantics. So because when a model and an LLM model is asked a question in Turkish or in Portuguese or in Arabic, so it doesn't just retrieve from that language's index. It also understands the concept across other languages, and it tends to pull from whichever version of the content is the most confident one, better linkings, most authoritative source, maybe has author filled in. So, and in most cases, unfortunately, that source is English because, in global setting, you put more attention into English. And so you configure everything from the beginning. But when it comes to local settings, sometimes this is ignored or not enough attention paid here. So I think we can yeah, in the industry there is a name for this. It is called geo-identification drift. So the AI system may understand the topic globally, but it may identify the English or global version of the brand as the stronger source. So your local page can be indexed. Yes, it can rank in Google. That's correct. But when AI needs to cite it or recommend it as a source in the overviews, it often drifts back to the version with stronger authority, well, which is mostly English. So, for example, a Turkish crypto page may be technically correct and indexed, but if it uses English terminology and doesn't have any local context, doesn't know, like doesn't cover what users are asking about that topic. So doesn't cover what Turkish users are asking. And no, there is no, proof that the content is strong enough, no proper linkings, no proper sources from local resources. So AI may choose the English page as a safe source here because your Turkish page is there, it exists, but it doesn't really look convincing locally and doesn't look authoritative locally. That is for AI to enough decide. But in crypto, we see this directly. And in crypto, translating well actually was never enough, not in the back in the years and not now. So now with AI visibility, we see this, more clearly. So in our case, what worked was treating each market as having its own entity, its own intent, its own authority, its own terminology, and own content depth. So in Turkey, that means like using how Turkish users actually talk about crypto. So you need to analyze your community. You need to see your customer tickets. You need to analyze those and see what people are asking, what people want to learn. And maybe in Brazil, it means like the differentiation and recognizing that Brazilian Portuguese crypto terminology can highly diverge from European Portuguese, right? The terminology is different there. So I think when companies start taking this approach, so when localized content has genuinely unique intent and depth, in my experience at OKX, this kind of approach can actually create real growth. So, and you can start getting cited in AI. So translation alone gets you indexed. Yes, that is correct. You can be indexed, you can rank, but localized authority actually helps you get cited. I think that's the difference between these two concepts, and this is how localization is impacting this era.
Yeah, I really love what you just said, right? I think from my perspective, it really comes down to the last sentence or two that you just mentioned, which is translation gets you indexed, but localized authority, right, gets you cited. And I guess I want to kind of elaborate a little bit more on the actual SEO mechanism that's underneath what Pinar is describing, because it's also really important. In classic search or traditional SEO, whatever you may want to call it, your hreflang setup usually keeps your language versions distinct, right? So they each rank in their own markets. You're able to tell Googlebot and direct it and kind of guide it. Okay, this is what this page is supposed to be for, what market, what language, etc. But now the AI layer actually sits above all of that. So it actually works at more of what we would like to think of as the concept level, right? Where those versions, again, can collapse into one single representation, which is what Pinar just said about, your English site potentially, or whatever your global version of your site is. So what that really means is that you can have a technically flawless hreflang, perfect local listings, but yet you still lose the AI citation to your source language page because the LLM models associated your entity to whichever version had the strongest authority signal. So not sure if that sounds familiar, but EEAT, right? And that's the trap most global teams haven't internalized yet, or we haven't seen that being internalized amongst a lot of our clients just yet. And so being correct in classic SEO no longer just guarantees that you show up in the AI answer. And honestly, closing that gap, building real authority per market, not just having clear translations, brand specific translations, is a big part of why my team at TransPerfect exists, right? We're at that intersection, the helm of where search and language intersects. That's exactly where we live and what we eat, sleep, breathe every single day.